Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick comparison between the Sony FDR-AX33 on the left, which is a camcorder, and the Sony RX10 Mark II on the right, which is a still camera with a fixed lens 1-inch sensor that happens to be a great UHD video machine on the side. $1,300 US for this camera, brand new, just launched this quarter. The FDR-AX33, on the other hand, has been on the market for a while, retailed at $1,000 US or $999, and now has dropped down to lower levels. So really, this is not going to be an in-depth. This is a quick comparison. I've shot extensively with this video camera, which I've already reviewed and told all of you that it's a great option if you're looking for the all-in-one compact traditional Handycam experience, but with balanced optical steady shot, something that is critical for UHD video capture. A 15x Carl Zeiss lens that's with clear image zoom, so take that into account, which isn't true zoom, but still gives you great quality. You do have audio in and monitoring, a headphone jack right there, multi-USB port right there, and an onboard transfer cable built into the handle, as Sony's been doing for years. You do have an EVF, which is solid and does work well. The build quality here is fairly good, and overall performance on the video side isn't as sharp as what you'll get from more expensive solutions like the AX100 I'm filming on now, which has a 1-inch sensor as opposed to the smaller sensor found here in the AX33. But the balanced optical steady shot is something that I wish was in more cameras, and hopefully Sony will integrate into their revamp of the AX100, because when it comes to getting a smooth shot with 4K, it is challenging, and that is one of the things that this camera pulls off beautifully. I mean, the UHD video looks like it's being shot on a rig, so even if you give up some of the detail, the quality between the size of the sensor, as well as just the fact that there is some compensation with the steady shot there, even though, again, it's all done basically optically. We're not talking about a digital form of stabilization, because it's actually adjusting and moving the lens, accommodating your hand motion rather than trying to simply correct it. So it is adjusting to its natural movement, something that I wish the RX10 Mark II could do. But remember, different beast. This is a still imaging camera, 1-inch sensor, so you have a larger backlit sensor, stacked DRAM design that also allows for high-speed or slow-mo video recording, something you can do here, but nowhere near the capability of what you get out of the RX10 Mark II. And the still images you're going to get here are also far superior. 24 to 200 millimeter Carl Zeiss lens on here, f2.8 across that range. Another thing you're not going to get with the AX33, but it is a video camera. But your video capture time here is limited to 29 minutes and 59 seconds. So this is not a real video camera, but certainly can be used as one. Keep in mind, it does not overheat, so that's why this comparison is also relevant, not just because they're close in price and both capture UHD video that's, I would say, very good here in the AX33, but better in the RX10 Mark II, but also beyond just pricing and UHD, it comes down to really the only affordable options, and Panasonic makes some of those other affordable options, but in my opinion, these two are unique in their own ways. Again, balanced optical steady shot, and then this incredible piece of glass that gives you such flexibility and much more room to grow depending on whether or not this is a hobby or a profession. If you're a photojournalist, whatever it may be, the RX10 Mark II really is, in my opinion, the best bridge camera ever made. So it does deliver a lot more value than what you're getting in the more traditional camcorder form of the AX33 with its smaller sensor. But it's not perfect. You know, it's got neutral density filters, great still imaging, Wi-Fi and NFC. Both of the cameras have that. Of course, what they can do with it is different based on the Play Memory Store application. We've got an LCD readout. We have all sorts of different programmable buttons. We have our mode dial. We have our exposure compensation, programmable, I mentioned before, your shutter release right here, on-off switch, rocker for zoom. There are different modes for how quickly this will zoom in or out. Sony clearly aware of the video success the RX10 was. We've got a click feature right here that you can turn on or off in order to make that aperture ring silent or actually have the click steps so that you feel them as you go through them. Something that, again, depends on whether or not you're shooting still or video. But in terms of connections, we have our headphone jack right here. This does have weather sealing that does not exist on the AX33. That's another thing I want to point out. Microphone in, headphone jack out, as well as our multi-port for charging and accessories, and HDMI out. So really, it comes down to what form factor are you looking for? What versatility do you need for what you're trying to capture? If you're looking for long format, non-interrupted video shot with incredible stabilization and are willing to give up some of that sharpness provided by the superior lens fixed on this camera as opposed to on this video camera, then you've got basically all of that here in the AX33. And the stabilization is that impressive that as good as the video is here because of the superior sensor, superior glass, you still aren't going to have that stabilization with steady shot or active stabilization on this camera because it simply doesn't have balanced optical steady shot, something maybe one day we'll see Sony integrate into more products other than the AX33. When it comes to everything else, the RX10 Mark II is simply better. I mean, I mentioned the sensor, the lens pairing, the different modes or speeds rather on video zoom. Clearly, Sony aware that this thing is, for many of you, a video camera first, even though it is a still camera on paper, a bridge camera at that, because that sensor and lens really does yield some incredible UHD 100 megabit per second video. The AX33 does a fine job, I think, for its price and form factor, and for what it actually represents as a camcorder. It's very tough for anything else to compete with it other than the AX100 I'm filming on now. But the AX100 doesn't even have the sort of stabilization that this camcorder packs. I mean, this is truly still alone in that handheld shooting on this looks like it's stabilized. You will not get that out of any other camera that shoots or captures UHD video on the market. So while the RX10 Mark II has everything in its favor, stabilization it simply does not. So that's something that I think a lot of people will care about, but not everyone. I think most people will think more of the overall feature set. And if you're thinking, well, why not go with a Panasonic FZ1000? Look, if you want to save money, the FZ1000 is a great way to do it. It also has a longer lens. It doesn't have the same quality lens as the Sony, nor does it have the same build quality, and nor does it have the overall capability now, in my opinion, that the revamped RX10 Mark II does. Of course, Panasonic does have age not in its favor. This is a brand new product. I'm assuming Panasonic will come out with an update to the FZ1000, even though I still haven't seen anything personally or heard anything. But again, this is really all about, do you need a camcorder? Do you need a battery that's going to outlast what the battery here will last shooting UHD video? And do you care about the quality of your stills? If you do, then the RX10 Mark II is the winner, no question about it, because it is a still camera first that just happens to shoot video that's better looking than what you'll get out of the AX33, but again will require some sort of rig in order to get how smooth the footage looks coming handheld out of this smaller censored video camera. So it's all about that, the budget, the time capture limitations, understanding that you have a lot more flexibility with the RX10, but also you give up the niceties of the camcorder realm, which means balanced optical steady shot, in my opinion, being the most critical thing. Because for many of you, the 30-minute capture length on the RX10, just like the original, isn't an impediment because you're shooting in smaller clips. You're not trying to film long format things. For those of you that are, obviously you still need a camcorder, so much of this comparison is moot out of the gate. But I think inherently, again, because of the price and performance, these do warrant a comparison, which is why I've done it for all of you. So personally, I would pick the RX10 Mark II, even with the price difference, unless you really aren't concerned about shooting stills regularly, because then the balanced optical steady shot, even with the smaller sensor, is going to yield, I would say, even though, again, not as sharp, not as much detail, not as pleasing to the eye as the raw capability of the better sensor lens pairing here, I think overall it's going to be the steadiness of the Boss system is more important for the average consumer that has a UHD TV and just wants to watch their family vacation, as opposed to the video pro or even amateur enthusiast, what have you, that's aiming to get great video quality on their next trip or a shoot or whatever it may be. So it's all a matter of what your application is, picking the right tool. I hope that this helped all of you. Remember, they do shoot the exact same UHD bit rate. So in terms of specifications on paper, they're a tie, but because there's a larger sensor here, different glass on each of them, different stabilization, that's what I was really trying to communicate throughout the course of this video. And of course, the actual form factor. You know, what are you comfortable shooting with? Is this what you're comfortable with, or would you rather have the grip associated with a traditional camcorder form factor? So again, for me personally, RX10 Mark II wins, but I think for the average consumer, Sony knows exactly what they made here in the AX33. Both great devices, definitely unique in different ways and ideal for different consumers, and hopefully you've identified which one you are. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.